So there is still a big question in my mind. How is having the human condition explained supposed to make me sublimely happy right now? Like, how is my life, the one that I live here where I work, I've got my partner and I've got my house, how is this life and everyone else's just supposed to be completely transformed, as you said it would, drunk with fire, as Beethoven's symphony proclaimed? Like, how is my life and everyone else's supposed to suddenly be completely transformed?
Yeah, I think at this point I should suggest again that I think it would help if you were to print out a copy of the transcript of this instant and brief question and answer introduction, so you can more easily follow and think about this and the previous responses. Because don't forget, the issue of the human condition has been such a repressed, forbidden subject that most people haven't even been aware that it even exists. So everyone has to expect that it'll take a little time to absorb and process what is being said. So how does understanding of the human condition suddenly transform your life? Firstly, it's true that, as Professor Prosen said, with the explanation of the human condition found, the psychological rehabilitation of the human race is able to begin. We could each go back over everything that happened in our lives and using the explanation, reconcile all those events with compassionate understanding. We could undo all our psychosis and neurosis and become, as Jung said, whole. We could go into therapy, revisit all the events in our lives, in particular the especially influential ones that occurred in the formative years of our infancy and childhood, and replace any neuroses and psychosis producing denials and blockouts that we had to employ to cope back then with healing, compassionate understanding, because we can now understand the source of all the upset, all the innocence destroying angers, egocentricities and alienations of the adult world that we had no choice but to grow up in. As the Adam Stork story explains, with the emergence of consciousness, upset has been occurring, and since it hasn't been resolved, it's also been accumulating from generation to generation. So we are now each a product of the upsets from our own experiments and understanding, and also a product of the accumulated upset in past generations, which are now very great. In fact, a common experience might now be that your mother was so neurotic she was unable to give you any real love, and your father was so egocentric he was oppressively preoccupied, silent and angry, basically that no one was there for you. Whatever your particular story might be, we can understand where life's extreme imperfections came from, namely this great, heroic, but terribly upsetting battle to find knowledge that the human race has been involved in. Now, while this therapy of all our upset is now possible, the problem is it would require a great deal of time and supportive counselling. Time and counselling the world can't afford at the moment. And in all but the most extreme cases, such therapy is in fact not necessary. Now, I want to explain this absolutely all-important point of it not being necessary to psychologically rehabilitate ourselves in order to be immediately free of the human condition. The reality is we're not going to be able to heal all the upset within us straight away, despite having the means, the compassionate understanding to do so. In fact, it will naturally take a number of generations for the upset inside humans to be ameliorated and healed, and to eventually subside through understanding of the human condition that's now available. However, with the upset state of the human condition now explained and defended, we no longer have to live those upsets out. What we can do is straight away is leave all our upsets behind as dealt with. The effect of which will be to immediately be free of the upset state of the human condition. I want to elaborate on what I've just said. Now that upset is explained and defended at the most fundamental level, in other words, the source of all the upset in the human race has been compassionately understood, it follows that all the upsets in humans are now explained and defended. This means that all the ways we've been employing to try to cope with the upsets within us and around us are obsoleted, rendered unnecessary and meaningless. No longer do we have to try to prove our worth, because our worth has been established at the most fundamental level. No longer do we have to deny any confronting truths about our immensely upset, corrupted condition, because no longer are there any truths about our upset, corrupted state that condemn us. And no longer do we have to retaliate against criticism of our upset state, because our upset state has been defended with truthful, compassionate understanding at the most profound level. Our upset lives are explained and defended now, which means we no longer have to be preoccupied compensating for those upsets by finding forms of self-aggrandizement, by seeking self-distraction, or by chasing relief through materialistic forms of compensation for all the hurt we experienced growing up in an immensely human condition afflicted world. In other words, we no longer need to seek power, fame, fortune and glory, if we call it that. Because our goodness has been established at the deepest, most profound, fundamental source level. So instead, what we can do is simply leave our whole must prove our worth, attack and deny any criticism way of living behind as obsolete, and redirect our mind and all our energies to supporting and disseminating these human race saving understandings and to repairing the world from all the damage our upset has caused. You can, as it were, put the issue of all your upsets in a suitcase, attach a label to it saying, everything in here is now explained and defended, and simply leave that suitcase behind at the entrance of what we in the WTM call the Sunshine Highway, and set out free and unencumbered into the new human condition free world. Everyone can now join the Sunshine Army on the Sunshine Highway to the world in sunshine. As Bono anticipated. What was it? I've conquered my past, the future is here at last. I stand at the entrance to a new world I can see. The ruins to the right of me will soon have lost sight of me. Yes, the ruins to the right of me will soon have lost sight of me. In other words, I'm leaving all the ruins of the old, now dealt with and thus obsoleted, upset existence behind me forever. And what did Bob Dylan say? Similarly, he said, the present now will later be past, for the times they are a-changing. And Cat Stevens similarly foresaw a time when yesterday has passed, now let's all start the living for the one that's going to last. We leave our old upset embattled world behind as dealt with. All our egocentric embattled posturing to get a win out of life, all our strategizing every minute of every day to try to find a way to compensate for feeling inadequate or imperfect or bad about ourselves suddenly ends. The reality is that because we've had to live in such deep denial of the human condition, it is initially hard to see just how terrible life under the duress of the human condition has been. It's hard to see how our lives have been completely governed by insecurity, confusion, guilt, doubt, fear, and extreme self-preoccupation. And to make our lives bearable, we've had to put on a brave face and delude ourselves that we're happy. However, all the suffering that was really going on in our lives is now over. We are transformed from that, from what in truth has been a deeply preoccupied, lonely, troubled, virtually dead state, to a free state, a state that's absolutely free of all that. We leave the dark cave of denial and delusion where we've been hiding to escape the unbearable glare of the truth about our seemingly imperfect condition. Behind, it's obsoleted. Excitement and meaning based on a liberating, truthful, honest understanding of ourselves and our world is what sustains us now. So to go over that again, having the human condition explained and defended means that everyone can now immediately leave that old human condition and battled way of living behind forever. Well, it'll take a number of generations to eliminate the upset state of the human condition from within humans. Everyone can immediately be effectively free of the human condition by redirecting their efforts from being preoccupied with and living out their upsets to living in support of these understandings and to repairing the world. And with understanding of the human condition found, it's at last possible to properly repair our environment, because all the upset that caused and was continuing to cause the destruction of the planet now ends. The excitement of being effectively free of the human condition is going to transform the world. The joy and happiness of being free from the burden of your insecurities and self-preoccupations, the awesome meaning and power of finally being aligned with the truth and participating in the magic true world, and the wonderful empathy and equality of goodness and fellowship, that understanding of the human condition and now allows you to feel for your fellow humans, and the freedom now to effectively focus on repairing the world, and above all, the radiant aliveness from the optimism that comes with knowing our march through hell has finally ended, means that our world is going to be transformed. I might say that to illustrate this, that descriptions of what happened in so-called near-death experiences illustrate just how exciting, sensitizing and real self or soul rejuvenating being free of the human condition is. I mean, what is it? Mountain climbers I know who survived falls where they were convinced they were going to die. They were often saved by falling into a snowdrift or something. Very often recall that during those near-death moments they experienced a state of extraordinary euphoria in which the world suddenly appeared utterly beautiful and radiant, and they were flooded with a feeling of ecstatic enthrallment. Now, with understanding of the horror of the human condition, of being preoccupied, trying to defy unjust condemnation, we can appreciate how, in such circumstances where death appears imminent, the mind would give up this preoccupation in the face of death, or the worrying about trying to prove our worth, and all our efforts to defy any criticism about become sort of meaningless. There's no longer any reason to struggle with the agony of the human condition, at which point that struggle ceases. And the true world of our all-sensitive real self or soul suddenly surfaces and opens up. You suddenly discover what it's like to be free of the human condition. You suddenly have access to all the real beauty that exists in the world, that your preoccupations with the human condition have hidden you from. You discover another seemingly magic world that is all radiant and magnificent. Now, this is the freedom that letting go of the struggle with the human condition allows. So finding understanding of the human condition enables you and everyone else to suddenly be transformed into a sublimely happy, drunk with fire, as Beethoven's symphony anticipated, effectively human condition free state. Now, in the opening instant introduction, I included quotes from WTM members whose lives have been transformed by understanding of the human condition. So now that I've explained how this transformation is achieved through letting go your human condition and battled existence, their extraordinary excited comments, can be better understood. So I think it'd be worth repeating them. Neil Dunn said, "The freedom this brings is like nothing humans have ever experienced." Stacey Roger, "This is all that we have ever wanted." Tony Gowing, "This is like seeing the world for the first time. It's like waking up from a nightmare. It's like 100 tons being lifted off your shoulders." And John Biggs, "The relief and through-the-roof excitement that flows through your veins is incredible. It is beyond comprehension how much wonder and fun and excitement and happiness the human race has coming." In the case of Doug Lobbin, who was quoted also, I might play some of the footage from his affirmation so you can see firsthand just how amazingly relieving and exciting letting go of the human condition embattled existence is, and also how amazing the transformation that results is. So I'll conclude with this extract from Doug Lobbin's affirmation.
Everything just opens up. It is quite extraordinary how you just start living for something other than yourself, and what you're living for fixes the world's problems, and everything just becomes amazing. Just knowing that you don't have to live out that strategy, And it doesn't matter what strategy you've got either. You could be anything. You can just bundle it all up into one big package and just leave it behind and just head across that bridge. It's all explained, it's all dealt with. The information or the explanation does that, and you can just be so free of it. It's incredible. And the excitement that flows from that is quite amazing. You can't sleep. I mean, I would go to bed thinking about this transformation process. I would wake up in the morning and the first thing I'd think of is the transformation process. I'd be waking up at 4:30 and just thinking for an hour or so, and then jumping out of bed at 5:30 and say, Polo's got to get up and go to work. And so through this process, you can change from living your life through a competitive, egocentric, insecure, meaningless framework to being able to live a happy and content with who you are and a meaningful and incredibly exciting life. I just thought I'd read out this little bit of writing. I wrote this late one night. I'm just so excited, I can't sleep. I'm about to burst. I was in the shower and the hook on the curtain had fallen off, so I put it back on and got an amazing feeling of meaning. And I got out of the shower and just looked around for something else I could fix, because that is what we get to do. And I just can't believe that after eons of generations, we are the ones who actually get to participate in fixing the world up. It's just unbelievable. There is so much to do, I can't wait to get into it. Even though I know you did, especially Jeremy, I have this feeling of you didn't tell me it was this good. I'm starting to feel selfish because all I can feel is how good it is that it is finally all over. We're out of there, let's go. I've got this image of marching straight forward with incredible purpose, straight out of a massive swamp into long green grass with flowers and butterflies and sunshine, and never ever looking back. Just keep marching forward. Everyone together, we're going to have so much fun.